two, one, boom. And we're live. First of all, cheers, gentlemen. Have a little toast. Just relax. Bob, thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I understand that you've told the story many, many times. You've been grilled many, many times, and it's very stressful too, so I really, really appreciate your time. For people who don't know the story, there's a documentary. Jeremy Corbell has a documentary out right now. It's called Bob Lazar, Area 51 in the UFO. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Patrick. Area 51 as well. Okay. I first heard your story decades ago. I told you last night, I've seen pretty much every interview you've ever given. I've followed the story incredibly closely. But for people who don't know the story, let's give them the bullet points. You used to work at Area 51. In Area 51, you went right?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit accurate.
Okay.
Area S4.
S4. Okay.
About 15 miles south of Area 51.
Okay. You worked in, how would you describe it?
I guess within the Area 51 compound, you can call that a subset of Area 51.
And you got that job. Before that, you were working.
Before that, I had worked at Los Alamos.
Right. And you were involved in what kind of work?
Nuclear weapon development, physics, they do everything.
So how do they approach you to say, hey, Bob, let's come on out to the Nevada Desert?
Well, the way this went down was, at that time, it was 1982, I put a jet engine in my Honda. And Los Alamos put it on the front page of the paper. So, Los Alamos man, physicist at the lab, that's a 200-mile an hour, Honda jet car. Well, I drove to work every day. so I was known in Los Alamos as the guy with the weird car and, you could hear it from a mile away. Anyway, the day that came out on the front page of the paper was the day Edward Teller, the father of the hydrogen bomb, was given a lecture down at the lab. And we didn't have much going on that day in our group, and I asked if I could go down there. And I went down there early, and Ed Teller was outside, leaning on a brick wall and reading the front page of the paper. Now, I was a guy out of history, so I introduced myself, hey, I'm the guy who reading about there, and we talked for a little while, and it was good. Fast forward 2 years later, I moved out to Las Vegas, and had, left Los Alamos, and, went on to other things, and I wanted to get back into the scientific community. I left, started other businesses, and that sort of thing. So I took resumes out, and one of them went out to Ed Teller, and referenced our meeting, back when we were there. And anyway, he remembered me and gave me a reference, somebody to contact if you want to do it. And that's pretty much how it started.
So you get a phone call or a letter, what do you get?
Well, I got I got a letter initially, and went down for an interview probably a couple times, and it was down at the EG&D Special Project, which was atmosphere and airplane at that time, in Las Vegas.
And did they give you any sort of job description of what you were applying for?
They said it was for, I can't remember exactly what they did. This was a long time ago, but I think it was advanced propulsion or something like that. Something relatively generic, and they said it's in a remote area. It's going to be some days on, some days off, and it's kind of not exactly a full-time job, but you might have to be out there for 2 weeks at a time and take 2 weeks off. So it was kind of the work schedule would be kind of broken up.
Did you seem attractive to you, or did it seem weird?
No, it really wasn't weird, because people that work at the test site, anybody that's familiar with the area up there, working at the nuclear test site, or at the Tonopah test range north of there, that's typically how things go.
So you had known about it from the scientific community? Because Area 51 at that time was...
No, they didn't say anything about Area 51.
Okay, so
They just said it was in a, in a remote location, and you just know it was up at the coast.
Right.
So there was no mention of Area 51.
So they've done hundreds of nuclear tests in Nevada, the whole area. There's giant chunks of Nevada that people...
Yeah, there's a big piece of Nevada, and it's split up into different areas. There's a nuclear test site, there's Area 51, there's the Conestoga test range north of that, there's little suburbs, there's areas where they test chemical weapons and things like that. So it's all broken up as a gigantic test range.
So taking back the first day on the job, you cut the job, we take you out there.
Yeah. It's, the first day really, I didn't really get to see a whole lot. The first day was essentially just paperwork. That's when I flew into Area 51 proper. I left McCarran Airport and flew what they call the Giant flight. Just, passenger plane from Las Vegas to Area 51. And it was really just going through mountain the paperwork that day. From security clearances to probably it was like 2 or 3 hours of just all that paperwork, and that was really an uneventful first day.
When did things get weird? When did you realize, or at what point in time did you say, hey, this is not normal work? Like, this doesn't even seem like it's from the plan.
That, I can't tell you what day that occurred on, because so much time has gone by, the days of trying to use into them, and I can't
Was it
separate the days.
was it a slow burn, or was there a moment of recognition?
Well, the first inkling I had was when I came in. There's this facility that is at S4. It's in the side of a mountain. And normally we had pulled in with the bus and gone around the front to the normal double doors. This time that I went in, there were hangar doors open. I went into the hangar door, and in the hangar door was the disc, one saucer that I worked on. I saw it sitting there, and we walked by it. I had a little American flag stuck on the side, and I thought, oh my God, this finally explains all the flying saucer stories. This is just an advanced fighter, and this is fucking hilarious. Yeah. So I went by, I threw my hand alongside it, I got reprimanded immediately for touching the thing. And there was a guy, an armed guard that followed us in and just said, keep your eyes forward and your hands at your side and just walk in the door. So that was the first time I had seen anything that was weird. It was sometime later that I was introduced to my lab partner, Barry. And we had some of the subcomponents of the craft in the lab. And Barry was very anxious to get a new lab partner. So he was very talkative and couldn't wait to show me different things. And it was in the demonstration of the reactor working where it caught my attention to the working technology that doesn't even exist. So, I mean, that was the first time I knew that this was really something different.
What was it? What was it? What was it about this reactor that made you think that you knew?
Well, it was I actually have to back up because there were some briefings that I read before that certainly gave me the impression that this is going to be a weird job, but this is the first hands-on thing. This is a small reactor about the size of a canister, about the size of a basketball, on a metal plate, and when it was running, it produced a gravitational field. The gravitational field of its own. Now, this is something that we can't do. We can't produce gravity. The only way we get gravity is in large quantities of mass. But there's no machine you can have that turns on that makes gravity like that. You can turn on an electromagnet and it makes a magnetic field. You can't make a gravitational field. Anyway, this device is producing that. And Barry said, almost like he was bragging, go ahead, try and touch the field. I couldn't. It takes my hand to it. It's just like 2 light poles of magnets. So that was...
so then you take 2 magnets and kind of press them together.
Yeah, you have that. Yeah, push them around, but you can't get them together. The closer you put them in there.
So you got that physically
with my hand? Yeah, no, there's nothing like that. And that immediately caught my attention. Wow, this is something else.
What was your thought? It's when you felt that and you knew that there was nothing that you were aware of that could produce
Then that connected me to the briefings that I read on the first day at Oxford was that, everything that I had read was a transient accurate.
What were you reading?
It was a kind of an overview. This project was to back engineer the alien craft. And specifically it was to try and back engineer and see if we can duplicate the technology with a valid understanding. Now to do this, they split the project into many different pieces for several reasons. They do this in all classified projects, so nobody had the complete story, but they compartmentalized everything. And we had the power and propulsion system. So what two things they gave me were like a 1 or 2 page overview of some of the other projects that were going on in the craft. The only reason they do that is just in case what you're working on is connected intimately in some way that you don't know if you want to hear the project, you have to know that, their existence. So, again, everything from metallurgy to, weapon potential, the craft, and these are all, essentially very short briefings, but mine was just power and propulsion. And it made it very clear that what I read was accurate.
So when you were reading that, before you actually saw the reactor, what were your thoughts on what they were describing? If you knew that something like that didn't exist, they're describing it in the briefing, what did you think you were going to see?
I didn't know at the time. I mean, I was reading, I thought, is this some kind of test?
You're crazy.
Well, not to say I'm crazy, a lot of times they're taking real high security jobs. I mean, they'll intentionally insert nonsense into it. Whether it's to confuse the facts or if someone was to leak it out, they would carry that information along and know where it came from. So I read through the documents, but, I didn't know if this was, part of some kind of test or what. It was potentially realistic. I mean, I really didn't consider it being all that possible as far as being the actual thing that I was going to work on.
How did they turn it on?
The reactor?
Yeah.
The reactor can be turned on or turned off in a lot of different ways. The way Barry showed me that the hemisphere is removed. There's a small tower in the middle. When you put the hemisphere on, the reactor activates. The reactor shuts down. It's a load sensor. So if there's no load on the reactor at all, it shuts down, and there's a load present on it, it starts up again.
Load meaning?
You can consider it an electrical load. So, although it doesn't necessarily operate electrically, there's no wiring that connects any of the subcomponents together whatsoever. They just have to be in the immediate vicinity. The stuff is borderline magic, and that's essentially where we left it, when I left the project.
So there was no progress.
There was some progress. I mean, we did identify at least the things and processes and had a rough idea, we think, of what was going on, but I think this is a problem that they've had for a long time. And, I was replacing somebody that Barry worked with prior to me. I think there was some horrific accident that I didn't have a whole lot of information on, but, Barry alluded to that.
A horrific accident where someone died, or?
Yeah, where somebody died.
Because they were trying to tamper with things or figure out how something works?
Yeah, the reactor in particular.
So yet you let you touch it.
Yeah, I think what they were trying to do was cut into that. Now, they had more than one there. It was supposedly there was an unannounced nuclear test, and that's what it was. At the time, remember, they were still doing underground nuclear tests at the test site. But from what I understand, according to Barry, there was an attempt made. Now, this must have been a pretty desperate attempt because it's not the first scientific process to test, analyze something like that. but it looked like they used a plasma cutter or something like that to cut into it and operate it with electric.
How many of these things did they have?
They had nine crafts altogether. I only got hands-on with one of them, so I can't really say what, how the others operated.
Did you see the other one?
Yeah, at one time, and only one time, the bay doors, the screen hangers were all open, and I could see all the way through.
And were they all exactly the same?
No, they were all different.
Different shapes?
Yeah,
But they were all from somewhere else.
yeah, absolutely.
Now, did anyone make any attempt to explain or to tell you where they came from?
No, no one is the least bit interested in letting everybody know all the facts. They want to give you the minimum information that's necessary to complete your task. So you're not getting the story of where they came from. You're not getting the story of how much progress other people are making. You just focus on the small components.
But they gave you some indication that they've been working on these for a while.
Yeah,
When do you think they acquired them?
I really couldn't say. I think they've been around for a while.
So they bring you into this room, you see this reactor working, you realize there's nothing that, as far as like the scientific community at current time, has the ability to create. What is that? What is your life like from that moment on? Is that where everything changes? Because I mean, I would imagine the moment you actually make contact with something that's extraterrestrial, whether it's an object or a being, something that you actually absolutely be certain, not from here, your whole paradigm, the whole world you live in, is now a different place.
So this is the only time it became exciting. You know, the rest of the time it was really an ominous feeling being at work. But at that time, it was exciting. I mean, this was, and now I knew we were on absolute, actually beyond the cutting edge of science. And I was so absolutely excited to be there every single time I went. You know, this is a fantastic opportunity, and however, in short order, it began to concern me. We really have no idea what we're talking about, and the excitement kind of turned to dread at some point, because the amount of power we're dealing with is astronomical. I mean, to affect gravity, to produce the effect like this equipment does, takes huge amounts of power. And I've given the example before of taking a small portable nuclear reactor and putting it back into the Victorian times, the scientists at the time, and just dropping it in a room. And come and look at it and see that it's producing power and wonder how it works, and start taking it apart. And as soon as they get some of the shielding off, people are going to drop dead because of the radiation and stuff. Now, people have no idea that radiation even exists back then. But anybody that comes in to check on them will also drop dead. And, there's no reason that exact scenario couldn't happen with what we're dealing with. We have no idea how the physics operates within this thing. The power levels are, like I said, astronomical. It's incredibly dangerous to tinker with something like this. And, in some respects, we were guinea pigs. Just try to find out how to make this.
So they had a series, as far as you come on, they had a series of different scientists tried about things in the science, try to figure out what the thing was, and they would bring in new people and like, what's their body?
Yeah, yeah.
And they
I don't know how many, but I knew there was certainly one before me, and I knew he died during the analysis of the reactor itself.
And you don't know how many have worked on it, and no one
This could have been there for 50 years, it could have been there for 5 years.
When they're giving you instructions, what are they saying? Like, when they're giving you directions, telling you all the stuff, like what are they saying? Specifically, what are they asking you?
Well, essentially what they asked is what I said. We are just to gather as much information as possible, find out how it operates, and see if we can duplicate it. So,
But they never told you where it's from. They never let you ask questions about where it's from.
well, if the information I read in the briefings was accurate, what I do have to say is the information that pertains directly to the reactor was accurate. What I read did, did jive with reality.
In terms of how?
In terms of how it was made, what we saw, how it operated, the materials that it, turned on, and it was discovered. I'm sorry for my
Sorry, no, we talked that before the podcast. We started about the day and now doing. I know you're very stressed out about this. It's one of the reasons why I'm
Where was I?
We were talking about
right, and so there was some paperwork that indicated that this was from the Zeta Reticuli star system. Now, how they obtained that, I haven't the slightest idea. But it wasn't just in the Zeta Reticuli star system, it was what they called ZR3, so it was a third planet in that star system. So there was no other information about it other than that's supposedly where the crash came from. Now, is that true? I don't know. I have no way of verifying it, but that was printed in the same materials that reference the reactor. Now, I looked that stuff up when I was home, and Zeta Reticuli is a binary star. Two stars that orbit one another, and it's only visible in the southern hemisphere, and it's about 30 light years away. So that's literally all the information I have about that. I don't know how they found out it came from there.
And you also probably have some suspicions that they give you some disinformation that you're talking about before. Yeah. And if you ever decided to talk about this, or added a bunch of nonsense, whatever is factual, which is okay.
Right. Or be able to trace it down and go, hey, this fact came out, and this is why I said it might, came from Zeta Reticuli, so they knew it was.
When you read Zeta Reticuli, what is this?
Well, reading all of the stuff that was wrong with stuff as well.
You're like, why did I sign up for this?
No, it was, this was cool. It was interesting. I was just excited to be out in a secure area, in the middle of the desert. It was awesome.
How old are you at the time?
I was in my 20s.
Yeah, because you're totally goofed out.
Oh, yeah, this was great. I mean, I was excited to, I was reading through everything, and
so you read through all the Zeta Reticuli thing, but then you see the actual starship with the little American flag sticker on it.
So that was...
Is that later or before?
That was before.
So you see the thing before, and you say, oh,
What's that before?
Oh, it's from New York.
Yeah, I think.
Either way, doesn't matter.
The days are fused together. It's so hard to separate what happened in each day.
Do you remember the thought process when you read this from Zeta Reticuli?
Yeah, it didn't hit me like a ton of bricks or anything. It was like, yeah, okay.
Do you think it was bullshit?
I don't know. Now I don't. I mean, because when I read it, I hadn't verified anything. This is just a bunch of stuff I was reading. I thought maybe after this, it's just going to give me a test and see what I can remember and save the information. But like I said, when I finally went in with Barry and had hands-on experience with what they were talking about, it's on a completely different meaning.
So there's a plate, there's a thing that looks like a top of basketball, and then it's on, you can't turn it on, you can't touch it.
Right.
How is, what is gravity of this? Like the concept of gravity, most people with gravity bringing something towards it.
Yeah, well, I guess you would say anti-gravity. If gravity shifted 180 degrees, anti-gravity.
And did they have any understanding about what could possibly create this effect? Did they have any areas that they'd like you to look into?
No, they knew there was a feel for a thing, and they were proficient at making it work. And again, my analogy to something like this is you can drop a motorcycle off in a wagon train and you see that with the keys parked outside, somebody's place. Everybody will come around it and hope and pride, and eventually they'll turn the key, get it to start, and become proficient at riding it.
Yeah.
But they won't be able to understand what the hell's going on. They won't be able to make a plastic defender, much like anything else. And I think that's exactly the state we were at. We played around with the parts long enough before I got there where they could make the reactor operate, take the fuel out, and know that it makes it work. how exactly what was going on in the reactor remained mystery at the time. I think we made some progress on what was going on inside, but I don't think anybody really knew anything. They could just watch what was going on and make note of it.
How long were you there?
I'd say about 6 months or something.
And what progress was made?
Well, we came up with a bunch of reasonably good ideas about how the reaction works. And one of them was the square base of it was essentially like a cyclotron, which is a small particle accelerator, a circular one. Particle accelerators, linear particle accelerators are just a long tube essentially, and they accelerate particles at high voltage and radio frequencies, so they use high speed. But a cyclotron does that in a small circular area. And there is this very heavy element here, element 115, something that wasn't on the start at the time.
But it is now.
It is now, yeah.
When did it become on the periodic table?
I don't remember. Do you remember when I...
2004, James Scott, Germany, I think is where the first fabricate 4 atoms that lasted 220 milliseconds to be out of just nothing, right? And then later, it was discovered a couple more times they could fabricate it, then they gave it a place in periodic table. After that, called it much later.
So they told you about this stuff in 1982?
Yeah, well, we were saying that
What year was it?
it was 88 and 89 when I was there. 82 is when I was in Los Alamos. Yeah.
So 88, 89, they told you about this stuff. This is not like...
No, they didn't tell me about it. That's one of the things that this group came up with. Losing my train of thought with this thing.
So this element 115 was the fuel.
Yeah, it was the fuel.
The word was forgive me for having a migraine. Can I just
Sure, I want to thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say one thing, about for the last 30 years, people have just been on the attack on God, getting to know him, the personal effects on his life. It's really hard to understand unless you meet his family and his wife. I mean, this is the last thing he wanted to fucking do, just have to talk.
Yeah, we should explain that to him. You and I had this conversation. I watched the documentary. We had this conversation, and I said, I have to document. Yeah. The document, there's been detractors, there's been a bunch of people that called bullshit on many things that we said, but over time, many of the things that you talked about, even in the 80s, have proven to be true. Things that people said were not true were proven to be true. Element 115 was one of them. Right?
Right. Element 115, the fuel they had, was stable. In other words, it didn't decay. It wasn't emitting radioactivity. When they synthesized 2 or 3 atoms of the 115, it did decay, and it was not a stable element. So they're kind of 2 different things. But this is kind of typical. Elements always have, or pretty much always have, stable isotopes and unstable isotopes. Easy on those, like 30 unstable isotopes, hydrogen, for example, euclid hydrogen gas, it's stable, not radioactive. But there's also 2 other types of hydrogen, deuterium and tritium. Deuterium isn't radioactive, it's another stable isotope of hydrogen, but tritium is radioactive. Now they're all hydrogen, but they just have a different amount of neutrons. So it's the same thing with other elements on 115. Depending on the amount of neutrons it has, designates the isotope. That is 115. They will continue to take or experiment and try and make 115 at different isotopes, and I'm sure eventually they'll come up with a stable version. But it's the stable version that has the properties that we're talking about.
So they somehow or another had acquired the stable version. Did they say that the stable version would come with this stuff?
Yeah, it absolutely came with the stuff.
So at the time, you having a firm knowledge of the periodic chart and knowing what was real and what wasn't real, what was your reaction to having this stable element 115 that wasn't supposed to exist?
Well, everything was impossible.
Right.
I mean, down to the metal. I did get a chance to look inside the craft on only one occasion, and this was important because where the reactor sat might have been critical to how it operated, since everything operates without any interconnection, so the placement of components might be critical. So they allowed me to go inside and look at it. Um,
So you're going into this craft, and what are you thinking when you're inside of it? What are you seeing?
It's a very ominous feeling because there are no, first of all, everything is one color. It's like a dark pewter color, and there are no right angles anywhere. It's as if somebody took, I've said this before, somebody took a model out of, and fashioned it out of wax, and then heated it just for a short time so everything melted. Everything looks like it's fused together. Everything has a radius of curvature where two items meet. It's a really weird looking thing. But there was almost nothing other than a small foldable half flow that looked recognizable. Everything was really unworthy to pick a way to describe it.
So you get inside this thing, and it's designed for something that's much smaller than human beings.
Yeah, you can't really stand up till you get to the very center of
And
it.
how tall are you?
I'm 5'10".
And what do you think this is designed for?
I'd say something close to half of it.
So these little 3-foot tallest creatures.
Yeah, and the seats were small too. I mean, obviously it was only, for something small. But there's nothing else in there. There's just seats, the reactor, and some of the subcomponents. There's no control panel. There's no bathroom. There's no decorative components or artwork or anything that you would recognize as frame. It's just a very bare bones frame.
You're not seeing any screens.
Well, there are archways around it. I've got a part of the superstructure, and one of the archways can become transparent. When I was in there was another group working on one of the archways, and you could call that a screen, more or less.
So through that archway, it would maintain the solidity, the solid, whatever metal it was.
Yeah.
So you could
Yeah,
see
it
through it.
became transparent. Yeah. I saw that happen once or twice.
Did you ask any questions about what the
No, there's no
no asking
No.
But when you watch something become transparent, and you realize it's still there, but you did not see through it.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's not that impressive. We do have some liquid crystal materials that are like that. Smart glass. Yeah, they call it smart glass. So this is just, and I don't know if the craft is made of, advanced metal or ceramic. It was cold to the touch. So, I would lean more towards the metal.
You're not allowed to ask questions.
No, they work on the buddy system, so I can only exchange ideas and talk to Barry. Now this really interferes with science, because science is based on free discussion. Ideally, you get a bunch of guys together, exchange ideas, work on problems, and that's how things move forward. But they're so over the top concerned about purity, they split everything off, and everybody becomes stagnant. It just destroys any of the progress you can make, or at least makes it go so slow. I think they wind up shooting themselves in the foot.
Which is probably why they arrived at this bottleneck, because they need to get this down with the jet power combat.
I think that was an act of desperation. I think they wanted someone to think out of the box and let's just give this guy a try here. Because they weren't, they might have done this 4 more times since, up to the point in time. Assuming they're still working on it.
And when you see this craft and you're inside, was there any indication that there was an area that they would use to control it, to pilot? Was there a pilot seat?
There were 3 seats. They sat around, the reactor was in the dead center of it, and then equidistant around the 3 seats. And that's all. There was a large, they're not consoles, they're large rectangular objects, also spaced equidistant around the center. There's nothing in it. There's no buttons. There's no light.
And
There's no
maybe the
control.
same color, the same
Everything
thing,
is the same
just
color.
a different shape.
Right. And directly underneath it, there's 3 levels in the craft. The main levels that we're talking about. Directly under that, those are the gravity amplifiers, the big rectangular objects. Underneath them are the gravity emitters that look like everybody little crafts hanging on a pipe relay. And then the top layer, this is just my personal belief, I think that has to do with a navigation or their version of a computer with some planar panels, central panels around the craft that we would call portholes, but they're not portholes, they're just flat area. And I think that just determines its position in space. But I physically was in the center section and I stuck my torso in the bottom section and hung upside down so I could see how the gravity amplifier was positioned.
What is the roughly the size of this thing?
I think I don't remember from being there, but after all this stuff was over, I had John Andrews, a guy from the Texas Model Corporation, and we sat down and tried to figure out from what I saw and known sizes of things, and we came up with 52 feet in diameter. And I think that's I think that's a reasonable guess.
No, you said there's 9 of them. You got a brief glimpse of the other ones. How are they different?
Oh, they look completely different. One looked like I call it a Jello mold, and it looked like a plastic Jello mold with a rippled sides to it. One was a very flat disc, like a straw hat or something like that. That was sitting up on its edge, and the thin part of it looked like a projectile had been fired through the edge of it. So I don't know if they were attempting to see if the metal could be penetrated, or if that's where the thing came from. Maybe it was shot down. But that was the only one where I saw there was, actual physical damage to it.
And that one was roughly the same size?
They were kind of too far away to tell.
And did there were several teams that were working on the propulsion system? So there were different teams that were working on these different aircraft?
I don't know. I could only assume.
Now, when you're sitting in the plane and looking at this otherworldly craft, your goal is to try to figure out how this thing stops. Your goal is to try to figure out how this reactor. You would imagine they would give you more time than just one day to check it out.
Oh, yes, it wasn't one day.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Barry was there. I think Barry was sleeping there. I'm sure they had. That isn't weird. I mean, up at the Bonaparte things where they're working on fighters, you go, I think, 3 weeks on, 1 week off, and you stay up there too. So it's not weird to stay up at the Bonaparte.
Right.
So, I think you put in after that, you've been at work.
Yeah.
But,
Yep. Do you have contact with this one?
No. I wish I did. I kind of thought he was going to come out after I did, and I think I took so much flack, so much shit for what went on. I think actually I wound up helping security and everybody was being separated, doing the same, anything like that.
So what kind of report did you have to get? So you're not making much progress, right? You're just trying to figure out what this thing is, and it seems impossible.
Well, we didn't personally make them. I mean, we were always, there was never a lot of information that we gained. The guy, you would call him our supervisor, his name was Dennis Marion, and kind of a military-looking guy, and he would routinely pop in, during the day, and, hey, what's going on down there? And he would essentially relay any information, anything new we came up with, I mean, he was our go-between. Presented any information, and he took it to wherever they were assembling all the data from everything.
Now, I assume you're working more on the day, but you know
No. No, it was really weird that I would be only called in on certain times and certain days, and there would be weird hours too. Most of the time is later in the evening. I mean, I can get a call at 11 o'clock at night, and say, it's now 11 o'clock. by 11:45 you need to be at the parent terminal, and we'll let you know when we have more information.
But what did you do while you were there? If you're looking at this object, this reactor, and you can't figure out what it is or how it was, other than the fact that it was an element that we don't even know about.
Well, sure. I mean, the thing is, what you do with anything, if you're trying to analyze it, all you can do is perform tests. And all we did is try and come up with every kind of test we possibly could. And we tested, it violated a lot of what we thought was impossible to violate. One of the first laws of thermodynamics, and essentially any machine, any device that operates always makes extra heat. Nothing works at 100% efficiency. Even the headphones you're wearing, anything that takes power, some of that power can be converted to heat and it's just wasted. This didn't. I mean, we looked at, back then we had infrared cameras. They're different today, but back then we had to pour liquid hydrogen into the camera to cool the sensor down and get these infrared images and things. But it never got, no matter what the load was on the reactor, it never got above ambient temperature, which is impossible. I mean, pulling out huge amounts of power and nothing ever gets wrong. We tried measuring magnetic fields and it was nothing there, so we started playing around with the emission from the emitters, the gravity wave itself, and saw what we could do with it and how it was focused. So we really spent all our time just trying to see what the stuff can do and what we can control.
So you were seeing what it could do, but you couldn't ever figure out how it could use.
No, not really. I mean, we really could only use come up with the best guess. Now, I can't say we really think that I could absolutely state for certainty how anything actually works.
Now, how did you know at all how they were piloting it? Because they were doing some tests where they were having these things fly around in the sky. And this is what gets us deeper into the story.
Right. I was out there for one test. In fact, I was with Barry in the lab, and Dennis came in and said, we're about to run a test, why don't you guys come out? Or I think he said, Barry, why don't you come out here and bring Bob with you? We went out there, and the test was already outside the hangar, and was just preparing to lift off. Now, they were in communication with somebody in the sky.
So there was a person in the sky?
Yeah, there was certainly a person in there. Now, it's not a comfortable place to be in because it's small, but the guy has to be sitting on the floor in the middle, into my best guess.
And this is the same specific craft that you worked on, because that was the only craft that you were in.
The only one that I touched and worked on. And it quietly lifted off the ground, which was incredibly impressive to see.
Quietly or silently?
Well, quietly, because it produced a little corona discharge from the bottom. Corona discharge is kind of a high voltage brush, little bluish flow discharge. As it was lifting off the ground, you can hear a slight push sound. As soon as it cleared the ground by about 5 or 10 feet, maybe even less than that, the hissing stopped and the blue glow disappeared. So it lifted off quietly and then it hit silently, if you want to be specific.
Right. So then what kind of movie did you do?
It took off, for that particular time, it took off, moved a little around to the left and right, and then shot back down. The craft itself, they communicated with a because I saw the guy talking in a regular VHF radio to the person in the craft. And I even saw the frequency that was on the frequency on that communication was on TV there. But what's weird is he shouldn't be able to communicate with the craft with the radio. The radio waves should bend around the craft. I mean, it shouldn't be talked about. Every single thing about the craft and the way they operated didn't make any sense to us. I mean, that's something we talked about sort of after.
Why should the frequency bend around the sun?
Well, you really have to look at the way the gravity wave comes out of the shaft. There's the reactors in the sun, and there's a waveguide that goes up to the top. There's actually a small appendage that sticks out at the top of the shaft. And it produces a heart-shaped gravitational displacement on the shaft. Now, if the shaft is sitting in the air, and you walk underneath it and look up, you actually cannot see the shaft. The light bends around it. The bending gravity bends light. It bends radio waves. It shouldn't be possible to communicate with a craft that has an envelope around it that's distorting all forms of energy. But they were apparently in contact with it.
Somehow or another, through some unexplained reason. It doesn't bother explaining to you. So this thing gets up, it just does some very simple maneuvers, left, right, for example. And did they discuss this with you? I mean, they said they wanted you to see it.
No, they just wanted, no, they didn't discuss anything with me, except it sat down, we looked around for a bit, and Barry said, let's go back in and back in the lab. All we got to do was see it. Fast forward to some months later, I did have the test flight schedule of the craft. Now, they had times they had designated high-performance tests. This obviously wasn't one that was a high-performance test. The high-performance test goes above the mountain range, and they do much more radical moves. This is a prize item, and they're not doing anything like taking around the atmosphere, flying around other country, or anything like that. They just played this thing right over the test site. But they were doing some radical moves in it. And since I had the test flight schedule, statistically, the amount of traffic in the surrounding areas in the highway was lowest on Wednesday, and that's by Dennis told us this. All the test flights occurred only on Wednesday, because it gives at least chance that anyone will see what's going on.
And this is before the government had expanded the forbidden territory around Area 51 and Papua State and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I think that occurred after my story came out. Then people started going up on the mountaintop and trying to look down into there, and they kind of freaked out, and then did the land grab and pushed everybody back. But, I think all that occurred long after that I came out.
So you're working there, and while you're working there, you're under this crazy pressure. Forgive me for telling you the story, but you would get the phone calls. You'd have to go to the airport at 11 p.m., and your wife started thinking you were having a fit.
Yeah, apparently so. Now, I did get my permission to have, as part of the security clearance process, I gave it written permission to have the phones monitored and things of that sort. They weren't doing any covert stuff. So, with any two clearance with the civilian top secret clearance or military top secret clearance, they go talk to friends and, places you go, make sure you're not going to get to foreign countries. So, monitoring your phone is nothing unusual. However, they insisted that, you don't even talk to your loved one, to your partner, to your wife, whatever, about what's going on. So you were essentially in the dark and didn't know the phone was being monitored. Well, part of the security clearance is that not only do you not have any connections to foreign countries and everything, but you have to have a stable home life too. If you started having an affair with a flight inspector, they were monitoring it from the phone, and they knew it and I didn't. So they stopped me coming in, and their attitude at the time was, we need to see how this is going to play out, and if this guy's going to get a little weird or anything. So let's just, hold them off from coming in and, see what happens.
And they explained this to you, what was happening?
Well, after the fact, yeah, because time kind of went on, and there were guys that were following me around, and I started getting a little concerned, going, well, shit, are they booting me out of the project? And if so, they're not just going to let me hang out at home and go get a new job knowing what I know. So as time went on, I started getting a little concerned, and I took my closest friends and just kind of got together and I said, hey, remember that job I told you about? This is what's going on. And like, you don't need to take my word for it. Wednesday night, I'll go out here, I want to show you what's going on. So I took everybody and we went out to, remember since I had the truck back schedule, and went outside the base, out into the desert, and so everybody could see, the high performance stuff. And, I started influence on everybody, so they knew I wasn't.
And this video is a detail, right?
Yeah, I remember this is it's in the dark in the 80s with a big monster-sized camcorder, and you got, a bright light jumping around, but, yeah, I mean, we did video of it, but there was no, like today's standards, it's
But is your video specifically available, the video that you took?
well, George Knapp has it.
Is it online?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it says put together my form, it's online, and someone did a deep analysis of it. It was interesting. Take a look at how
Hold this microphone up,
to see how his video looks now, but as far as video evidence, I mean, we are talking 80s context. The most important thing is the human story here. Everybody that he took up there on 3 separate occasions, they don't all like each other, they don't all talk, they all agree on one thing. They saw something that night at the exact point in time and space that Bob Lazar said. Remember, this is 17 miles south of Area 51. No one even knew really about Area 51. We're talking Patrick Lake, and they all agree. They saw something that night he had never seen before and he's never seen since. Right when he said it. So that's one of like the 6 things where I'm like, how did he know? You can dismiss them. I tried to dismiss it. There's some things you can't get around. And there's about 5 or 6 of them. How did he know that?
If Jamie wants to find that video right now, what would he look at me?
Bob Lazar, UFO, X4, Area 51, just kind of like that. So it's like this, the X4 UFO video, Bob Lazar, that is an analysis, but I'm not analyzing these 80s videos. From the very beginning, Bob never said, I have proof of my story and I'm going to tell the world. He said at the very beginning, I cannot prove my story. That's not why I'm telling this. George Knapp convinced him to tell people, and he lived through it. And I didn't believe it either until I talked with George.
Okay, so you filmed the test one test and then you get back.
Actually, it was, I think the 3rd time, because we went out there the first time, everybody thought everybody was amazed because it did some radical maneuvers, and, everybody had a lot to
Because
say about
the
it.
movies that I've seen the video, it doesn't, I don't think there's something we have now that does that.
No.
In terms of like a human piloted craft. And I don't know, obviously, with the government.
No, it's impossible. Nothing can move like that. And remember, we didn't start filming from the very beginning. We were waiting for something, to happen. The craft took off, and flying at us, stopped, turned it around, and flew back, and, after it did some, amazing stuff, what's the camera? And then we started filming, so it doesn't have all of it on there. It's just like,
The way I describe it to my friends when they said what is it, I said, take a laser camera and then have a wall and then move it around the wall. If you know how it moves around the wall, it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with inertia or physics, or it's not impeded in any way by the atmosphere.
yeah.
That's what it looks like.
You're essentially separated from reality, as crazy as that sounds, but being in case of someone's own gravitational envelope, inertia is not going to affect it. And, this is how some of those recent sightings of Commander David Fravor, I'm sure you've heard of the TikTok UFO, I mean, he describes exactly, the thing operates exactly the way I was describing. That's why he was interested to talk about. But you saw this, and, on the way home, it's like, hey, we got away with it, we should try it again, and that's that day. So this became a thing to do. And I think it was on the 3rd time that we got caught. I mean, we started becoming really careless. I think we took a motorhome after all. I mean, it was like this stupidest thing we did. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And,
Again, you're in the same.
yeah, and, what was funny was, we went out there and, my friend Gene Huff and I were leaning on the front of the vehicle. And just for some reason, we just started talking shit. Like, well, I hope they realize that, I don't know what you were saying, but, you know, it's something about attacking the base or something along those lines and stealing the class or something like that. And then about 20 feet in front of us, we see a little green light fall on the ground and roll to us. And unbeknownst to us, now it's pitch black, you can't see behind in front of your face. There were a bunch of guards standing right out there, and they had a night vision scope that were like from here to the wall, looking at us, listening to us, and the guy dropped it, and the scope rolled over to us, and you could see the green screen. Just off the turn the lights on, and all these guys were there. So it was, yeah. So we did incredibly stupid stuff, and got caught as we should have.
So when the testing was being in, then what happened?
Well, I went in for debriefing. The following day, I went to Indian Springs Air Force Base, which is kind of a defunct base that they used to use as a nuclear test site. And this is when they brought out the transcript of the phone call with my wife. And, you know, they sat me down and they said, you know, when we meant to keep the secret, we meant you can't drive your son, right? You know, and it's just being sarcastic and funny. And then they got real serious. But this is where they, you know, took the transcript out and were reading me that my wife and, you know, what we're talking about. And it was a hard time.
So what happened to you? What do we do? Run for a lecture?
I don't know. I don't know why. I'm not sure they exactly bring me what to do, but they did let me go that night when I went home. And this is kind of when the most stressful part started.
Because you realize when you're being monitored.
Now I know. Not only am I being monitored, but now I know I'm in trouble. And it wasn't a short time after that I contacted. You know, at that time, only investigative reporter I had heard of in Las Vegas was George Knapp. And, you know, told him some of the story, because I had no idea what the hell was going to happen at that point.
So George Knapp tries to dissect the story, tries to find holes in it, tells it, puts it online, and makes everyone aware of it, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What happens? What happens from there on? I mean, do they contact you and say, "Hey, Bob, it's probably a good idea to stay up"? Did they try to label you crazy? Was there?
There were a lot of things that happened, you know, between that time. I'm leaving out a lot of stuff to fill in the story. We'd have to go back to Los Alamos and I would have talked about that to
Top secret weapon stuff that you were.
no, I'm talking about the 115. Well, I don't know, that's the thing I don't have.
What is the problem?
I don't want to get myself into more trouble by admitting something, so I just have to dance around a couple.
Ray was just doing the filming of the movie.
The movie's great, by the way.
Thanks, man.
And it's on Netflix right now. If anyone wants to check it out. And if you're one of those people like me, who, you know, I've always loved the idea of UFO. I became extremely weird talking to people who are UFO believers and UFO fanatics. There's so many of them that are sick. Not just full of shit, they're childishly delirious. Like the way they talk about things. I mean, there's so many people that I'm in contact. They reach me in the night and they explain to me what we're doing to the ocean is wrong. And something like that.
This is one of the reasons I didn't want to do the show. I mean, it's no joke. We've had people literally camp out on the front lawn, and, you know, in some ways I can relate to some of these people. You know, maybe some of them did really have some kind of experience or saw something, and it swallows them, think they're crazy. But hey, now there's this guy I heard on the radio, and at least he knows I'm not full of shit, so I gotta talk to him. And so most of the correspondence I get are people saying, get a hold of me, saying, Bob, you gotta listen to me. I'm coming to talk to you. I'm driving from Oklahoma or whatever, and And for some of them, it's just fucking batshit crazy.
Yeah.
It's so frightening.
There's a lot of schizophrenic still involved in the conspiracy theory. There's a lot of people that deal with it.
So it would be a disservice to your audience to not say that you have to look at what's going on now and understand. I could on the show a bunch of stuff about what's going on now, and to not really understand what's going on now, you can't see God's story in the fresh light after 30 years. And at some point we should just touch upon that. The biggest being that things like the TikTok UFO case that came out, I've heard people, even on the show, so there was a glitch in the radar. But the data for perspective, you just don't know yet what's really going on. Commander Flavor, I was able to get the interview with him, talk to him way before it became public. I got that from him. He saw it, others hired saw it. This is a big thing that's going on right now. They had more sightings on the East Coast recently, huge, with the spherical orbs. These are not aerodynamic, and these are the people we trust to defend us on 9/11. Commander Flavor protected by scientists on 9/11. So we trust them, but they're not trained observers. Radar, individuals, see these things, and the big one, just to throw it on so we can consider it a little differently, more depth to it. The big one is the United States government has admitted that they have been continuously studying the UFO phenomenon. That program was called ASIC, was called AWSAP. That's the mother program. George Max they announced to the New York Times about ASIC, but AWSAP is acronym. AWSAP, Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Applications Program. Who cares? That was the mother program. So they've admitted we didn't stop studying UFOs in 1969 with Project Blue Book. We don't think it's crazy. We actually want to reverse engineer the technology. That's why on the other show, we said, what's this AAV thing? It's like, they're making up another UFO name. Well, hold on, there's a reason. Because in the documents, the DIA documents that George Knapp released, that everybody said is fake, so now they know is real, they call them AAV, which is Advanced Aerospace Vehicle. People get masking themselves. So the reason for the terminology change is so that we can mimic what we're reading in the DIA documents. People can look for that now. So they changed the name to get people away from UFO or UAP, even like Hillary Clinton said on it, right? So
What are you talking about?
Hillary Clinton informed the public on Jimmy Kimmel, oh Jimmy, we don't call them UFOs anymore. We call them UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. Right? So she kind of was getting to the Clintons are very into the UFO topic. Senator Reid, she's done a lot for the subject, the study of it, right? So she informed the public so they could look for the right term. So these terms are important because the DIA in those documents, they've been calling them AAV for quite some time.
And they changed the name to anomalous.
No, that's kind of a misnomer.
No?
So they always mess around with things, but it's actually advanced.
Right, but when they were describing it in the news, they were calling it anomalous.
Totally. And that's true. They were also saying anomalous aerospace threat, AAC, right? Because they want the sense of a threat.
Yeah.
So my point is, if people don't know this now and they think this stuff is fantasy, this part of it, that we're studying it, that we take it seriously, we're spending money on it, and that we're getting great data from visual pilots to radar. That's why we know it's aerospace. They drop from 80,000 feet. But guess what? That's the top scope of the Spy 1 radar. It's 80,000 feet. So the radar system they were using, it was coming from above them. So my point is this. If you don't understand that this is happening, you're just behind the curve because you don't have the information because of the stigma that you're talking about. I saw you get totally upset with UFO talk. I'm not useless, and you get totally upset with UFO talk. It's the people. When you're doing it, when you're doing your show, the Zero questions everything, I could see how frustrating it's taking. I have been frustrated to hell. Luckily, my mentor is George Knapp, and he's taught me to pitfall as I went through it. My whole point in this rant is just that we have to now look at Bob's story, but knowing the facts, not someone saying it's a bird, it's a plane, it's a glitch. They're not. And so if you don't know that, you just don't have the information yet.
And not just that, knowing the facts as we know in 2019, not in 1988.
Absolutely. And so what did he say that had come true? He's totally unimpressed with it. Right? What did he say that come true? So I was like, Bob, they've announced gravity is a wave. You were right, man. You're vindicated. And he looked at me and was like, If you think about it, Jeremy, I had like a 50-50 chance. He was not very impressed, right?
When did they announce gravity was a wave?
So they detected, in a sense, they detected gravity waves.
And
Right?
who is they?
You might know more. There's two black holes that are colliding, and that's how they were able to detect
Yeah, somebody, I don't know which group it was or what part of the government.
as they do this work.
Yeah.
Really?
But they, built a gigantic gravity wave detector, pretty much detector.
So there's such things as gravity waves.
First observation of gravitational waves, it says it was in 2016. So the first observation of gravitational waves was made on 14th of September 2015, and it was announced by the LIGO and Virgo collaborators on the 11th of February 2016. Previously, gravitational waves have only been inferred indirectly via their effect on the timing of pulsars in binary star systems. Dum, dum, dum. The waveform connected by both LIGO observatories match the predictions of general relativity for gravitational waves emanating from the inward spiral and merger of a pair of black holes around 36 and 29 solar masses and the subsequent ring down of the single resulting black hole.
Well,
Yes.
Yeah.
he was in the 80s, the predominant theory was gravity is produced by graviton. Theoretical particles. But, then still waves, particles.
And so the thought is that the way we experience gravity is based on mass, which is why the moon, which is roughly 1/4 the size of the Earth, has 1/6 of the Earth's gravity. So there's some sort of a computation to make based on mass.
Right, and remember, we can observe the effect of gravity, but we have no idea what it is. All we can do is observe it, and we can't make it. The only way you can make gravity is just get more mass to go. And
So-
it's just a product of gravity.
But
But if you can
roughly
if you have a machine that makes gravity, you can pretty much do anything. You can affect time, you can have force fields, all of that stuff that's in science fiction becomes reality if you have a machine that can make gravity. And what we worked on in the desert was a machine that makes gravity.
I love your analogy of dropping off a small nuclear reactor to the Victorian era. I love that analogy because back then that wasn't possible. That wasn't possible. What you're talking about here, the fact that they just discovered that 4 years ago, that this is a wave. But we're, as much as we know and as impressed as we are as we could be with how much more technologically advanced we are than every other people on the planet, we're still in many ways in the adolescence of technological innovation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If even adolescent.
And when you're talking about this binary star system and zero reticuli, and who knows how much longer these things have been around than us, who knows what their evolutionary path has been, who knows what, I mean, we might be talking about something for millions of years.
Yeah, it could easily be. Now, I'm not, believe it or not, I'm not into UFOs. I don't follow stories of,
Even after your experiences?
No, I'm fascinated with the technology, and it really irks me like every night I go to sleep that, I don't, that it was my own doing, essentially, that prevented me from continuing on in the project. I mean, that to be on that cutting edge of technology is so overwhelming to me.
Right.
But, by the same token, I don't really care that there's aliens or where they come from. I mean, the prize is the technology, and that's what I'm fascinated by. But so I don't listen to UFO stories and that sort of thing. But George Knapp is, he's the guy that has the contacts and tries to thread everything together. And what he recently told me is he found, I don't know, it was either documentation or people that spoke to it, but the existence of this project, the project that I was on, it's something that they seem to take out every 8 or 10 years.
So that's a very specific memo, and this is actually, this is the first time I'll be very clear to people that it's a big topic of conversation right now. It's called the Wilson Memo. You can look it up. Admiral Wilson met with a scientist who's actually featured in one of my films. Everybody has been debating whether or not this document of a conversation with an sitting admiral at the time is a real document. It's an actual conversation that happened, and this document that everybody wants to know the world's going crazy right now in the UFO world. I'll tell you straight up right now, I'm in the position of command, and it is a real document. That it is real. So the conversation you read in that conversation they had, I can't attest to every...
You're not being very clear.
Sure. No problem. So there is a document that is circulating right now. It is really big. It's going around everywhere. People are asking.
What is this document?
It's called a Wilson memo. Is that how you can find it online? Or the Wilson leak?
The Wilson memorandum. You said human vulnerability.
No, that's not it. Yeah. So, Admiral Wilson meets with this scientist and they have this discussion. Oddly enough, that special project at EG&G. And if I remember the document from 2001, I'm telling everybody right now, it's real. And we'll see, my history's pretty good with like showing if something's real or not, right? So here we go. The document comes out. They meet at EG&G special project. In 1989, they stumble into a problem. This happens. They put the technology away, and then they bring it back out and see if material science has caught up and if they can make any progress. So this document kind of talks about this process. The big thing I get from it, and a lot of it's vindicating to Bob, and one of the things it's vindicating, besides the EG&G thing, is that private industry, so this guy's an admiral, and he says, I found out about your SAP, your Special Access Program. I need to know about it. And he's going to a private part of industry, and he is denied access. And he says, I should be running this program. And they were able to deny him access. So I think the takeaway here is, check it out. I'm telling you that is an actual correct, that is a leak. Now, everything said in that document, I don't know.
What are you talking about? What is said in that document?
It's between a scientist and an admiral that are sitting and they're having a meeting, and they're talking about there's the search for the UFO subject, the search to get special access program access to all of these different things, like reverse engineering programs. So in this document, they talk about it. I believe that this document, the person that went was employed by Robert Bigelow, one of the guys who has a couple of orbiting satellites and all that stuff.
Who's the guy who owns Skinwalker?
No, he's not. He was the guy that owns Skinwalker.
Okay.
Yeah, he used to own it. There's a new owner, and I interviewed him for my other film, but there's a new owner. You'll be hearing a lot more about that soon. But, there's stuff that you'll be hearing about Skinwalker soon because there's new owner. Anyway, the whole point of this, insertion here is just that document kind of validates a lot of this idea Bob just said, that they make a little progress, then they can't go anywhere, they tuck it away, and then they bring it back out, 10 years later and start working on it. What is the limiting factor? I think Bob could speak on this, but it's the material science.
Yeah, clearly there's physics there. I can see them doing that. I mean, I didn't have any information on that, but I think that George uncovered is probably accurate. But we try and do what we can, and once we reach a roadblock and we can't figure it out, it's just wait, put something away, wait for science to catch up, and a decade later, let's take the project out again and see, all right, now where can we go?
But there's got to be someone who remains informed, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you've got your scientists like you and Barry, you've got your people that you compartmentalize, get these people working.
Yeah, there has to be some people that know everything.
You've got security, and then someone's going to be an asshole saying, hey, we need people to guard this building, send money down to some...
I think a lot of that is private industry, and I think that's how they keep it. Yeah, I think that's how they limit it, because the government is just so leaky. I think that's kind of what they're doing.
That's what the document kind of proves. You just articulated that it isn't controlled by the industry.
What private industry? Some aerospace company? Something?
I don't know.
Yeah, the admiral wouldn't name it in the press. In the press.
Yeah. So they still have these things, supposedly.
I would guess. I mean, I don't have any information on
Have you ever asked anyone that has any inkling of any idea of where they got it, or how they got it?
No, but something must have been said to me from Barry. But it was just too long ago. I can't quite remember what it was said, but it just left a seed in my mind. I think at least one of them was part of an archaeological dig. So it's old. At least one of them is old. I don't know if it was the one I wrote down, but I remember something to do with an archaeological dig. So that means it's not as old as ancient. Yeah. There's all of it.
Well, that came out when he said that for calling out. That's a freaking. Yeah.
A couple of dudes with some brushes looking for a Tyrannosaurus Rex bone and hit metal.
And when did they find it? You know, that they have 9 of them.
Well, and how could we have not heard about that? What about the guys with the brushes? How could you uncover something like that?
Would shows me crazy at home, but I mean, they said it on that first day.
Oh, you mean Roger?
Yeah, man, you told me.
Yeah, I have a cover. What is this? He's the back end, but I have to do some big on the phone.
Yeah, it's just kind of, so this is where we need it. Eugene View. This is Admiral Wilson, and there's a lot more to that. Now, I want to be clear, George didn't put this out. He didn't leak this out to me. This is, I can tell you how
Who
I...
recorded this conversation?
So this was an employee of, at the time, Robert Bigelow.
And this was in 2002?
Right. You remember when he had that government contract called OSAP the world all knows about now, and he had MIDS, he studied the ramp. That $22 million, everybody was saying it was for ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. The $22 million was for OSAP that was pushed through Congress, 3 congressmen, right, and astronauts. It was pushed through. And that's what the $22 million, by the way, they spend more money on Viagra every year than they do studying UFOs. If it was just this program, which I think is funny.
They probably make a lot more money from Viagra
They probably do.
than UFOs.
Yeah, you never know how it feeds in the population. But anyway, this program, this is what was the mother program. So it got the $22 million. And really, it was to study skinwalker ranch, oddly enough. That $22 million all was inspired by the phenomenon they were seeing at Skinwalker Ranch. Because the scientists, they're seeing vehicles come through like a space in the sky.
Yeah, we went there. I went there
Right,
with
yeah,
we interviewed a bunch of people that seemed full of shit, but a couple that didn't. It was very, very interesting.
Totally. And if you look, I spent a lot of time in the area. I'm not talking about their stories. I'm saying they were scientists hired by the government, right, through Bigelow to study the ranch because they thought it was important. And, whatever. The point is that $22 million was to study that. Then we have ATIP, which is like an auxiliary kind of program of military studies, like command of flavors and that sort of thing. This document is just one of those things that has now come forward that through the Bigelow studies, it was government funded. It was personally funded and then government funded. It's just one of those things that kind of shakes you because you got this military guy who can't get access because of the private industry that's holding these non-terrestrial material. They can't study it. So that's the claim right now. Give it some time, let people dig more into this. It's fascinating, man.
So you are essentially you're picked up. Right? You're out of this program. You can't work with these craft anymore. And do they give you any threat? Do they tell you what you have to do from here on out?
Yeah, well, I mean, the way it ended was I told George Knapp all this stuff, and he said, well, let's just get it on tape. Did something happen? At least we have a record of it. And I don't know what the heck was. At some point, George wanted to air it, and he said, you make the call on it, and look, if at any point you change your mind, we won't air it. And came down to the day where George wants to put it on the 5 o'clock news. So if this is important stuff, people like to know about it. And I thought it was too. I know it's kind of a time. I know you got to keep the technology secret, but you can't not tell everybody that this stuff is going on. That we have, actually hardware from another civilization. It's a big fucking deal. Probably the biggest one I ever was. And George said, today's the day we got to put it on the news, something to that effect, and when it came right down to the time to air it, I changed my mind and I said, we're not doing it. And that's what turned into the famous wrestling match between me and George trying to get the tape, but he won because it was a bigger guy.
You actually physically wrestled?
Well, I think it was more of a pulling match. I don't think we ever hit the ground. But he got the tape, put it in the player, and boom, 5 o'clock news was on, and then I got a call after that, and he said it was from Dennis. He said, "You have any idea what you're going to do in your life?" And then it's the time. It was the last communication I had.
And what has happened to you since then?
After that, a lot of people I've known either were audited by the IRS. People had, anybody I know that had clearances that worked in secure programs had the clearances pulled. One of them, one of mine that Jeremy knows.
Good on Tom with me too, and he'll tell the story now that he's out of this up there.
He was working up at the Kennecott test range, waiting for his clearance to come through, and they told that it became, it's like if they can't get the person that's involved, they just create a problem for everybody that surrounds them. And so, I mean, the way it turns out, it hurt a lot of people's lives that I was connected to. And that's the way of setting someone up.
Did you feel that by coming forward and going public, it couldn't just snuff you out?
That was, I mean, that's what I was told, and George and everybody, said that as well. It's publicly, no one will touch you, and I fell for it. And I
wish you didn't.
yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes when it's just overstressed and people can't handle on.
Yeah, but this is going to make things worse than this.
No, this is going to make things better.
After I was trying to tell him,
How is this going to make things
Well,
better?
because you're getting a real chance to explain yourself in a way that's going to make people who not only work in the government, people that are police officers, firefighters, first responders, and doctors, and scientists, you're going to empathize and empathize with what it must be like to be a person like you in your 20s who gets thrust into this world unknowingly and confronted with one of the most, if not the most, important discoveries in the history of human beings. The big question, are we alone? It's the number one question. There's two questions, right? What happens when we die and are we alone? Those are the two big questions.
Right.
And if we're not alone, and someone knows we're not alone, and these some people who know we're not alone are these bungling sort of...
Even if they weren't, it's a crime that they're not telling the rest of us.
I don't mean bungling in terms of incompetent. I mean they can't be competent. It seems to me that what you're describing that no one can be competent with this technology. Like the Victorian era scholars analyzing some sort of a nuclear reactor. There's no way.
why do you think they're not telling us? Let's just make an assumption that this is true right now. Why do you think that they're not telling us that our government doesn't tell us? What's your best?
Well, let me put it in what you do. If I'm the president, okay, and I get this information, what do I do with it? What do I do with it? It's something that we don't know. It's something we don't understand. There's something that came from another world. We got it tucked away in the mountains. And I just wanted you guys to know about it. Hey, Steve Tight, put American Knowledge on tonight. Who's going to win?
Yeah.
Who's going to win American
that's
Knowledge?
not gonna happen.
So one is uncertainty, and the other one is that Bob and I talked about a lot. Absolutely not knowing what to tell people because you don't really understand it yourself. Even though you've got
What can you say? You want to run a government? You want to get people to pay their taxes?
but there's something else.
Yeah. What do you say?
You have these objects found with impunity, right? And you have something else.
Then not only that, what can you say? Like, how much do you really know?
I think it's mainly the technology.
That's-
They just want to keep the technology secret because
Military.
Whoever gets this military,
we control we literally become invincible once you master the technology. You cannot penetrate a field like that. So imagine that, I know it's all science fiction, but science fiction turns into science fact. If you have real force fields around aircraft and battleships, you win. You win. You can force your will upon anybody. And like I said, there's so much more to the story. When I was first there were Russian scientists that I spoke. This is early on in the project.
This is before Operation Paperclip became public, right?
I would imagine.
That was,
I don't know what the date was.
when was that? When did that, was that?
Yeah, I don't know the date on
So,
it.
roughly 10 years later, Operation Paperclip becomes freedom of information
You're
officer.
talking about Russia, not Germany. So Russian science.
Yeah, but I mean, Russian scientists, a lot of them came from Germany. A lot of those rocket scientists that work with NASA, they all came from NASA scientists.
Got it.
So some Russians got some of them,
I
we
just
got
know
some of them.
at some point there was intense cooperation and even exchanging some ideas on nuclear weapons and EMP tests and so on, things we would never have discussed with them. But at the same time, it was in the late 80s, they were involved and actually in the area at X4 with us.
And you got to meet these guys and saw them?
No, I knew they were there. Barry would talk about the commies over there. The commies. And
that was back when they were the commies.
yeah, they were commies. At some point, it wasn't our group, but at some point, there was a big discovery made. And this did not happen when I was there. It happened in between my trips to there. And after that, apparently, they decided it was just too sweet to share with anybody, and the Russians were never allowed back on the base after that.
But you don't know what that discovery was?
No, like I said, it wasn't my group. So any other group really found out something. But, in typical American fashion, we thought, all right, this is our region.
Was there any inkling that any other government had something similar?
No, nothing that I haven't.
The other thing that always freaks me out is why, if something was so superior to human beings, it's almost like visiting an ant colony. Like, why would you go to the kingdom? I don't give a fuck who the kingdom is. I'm human. I'm so superior to you ants. I don't care who you have wrong in your lives. I'm just going to study it.
I think the pig got it.
Who got it?
Look at the, rocket technology in Germany.
Nine of them?
That doesn't make sense to me either. So they were either in the same area, or, one had shoes where others were. I mean, I don't know, you have to throw that in there, but you're right. I mean, none of them, that's a big dig if it was object.
But one of the more recent sightings and these discussions that have been coming out recently from Air Force pilots and Navy pilots, they've been talking about things happening in the ocean. And that something that literally goes into the water, or something maybe below the surface of the water.
2004 TikTok mimic too. So that's when George Mappinite broke on the radio twice before the New York Times, so I know this one really well. Commander Slater and those pilots. There was a disturbance on the surface of the water. Commander Slater visually saw what looked like similar to a cross, some object. So it's like as if you had some coral under the water and it's breaking over.
Yeah.
The TikTok is doing this crazy maneuver that defies it's a gravity type system.
They saw it in the sky before they saw it in the water, right?
Yeah, so there was radar that was taking a few things coming down from 80,000 feet, dropping to 50 feet in less than a second.
This is it, James? This is actually on the news today. There's a briefing.
So a lot of people get this confused.
About this thing on either?
So that is called the gimbal. So there's 3 videos released by the Pentagon that are all accurate. I would really just pay attention to the 4th video. So you've got the Tic Tac, which is this object that Commander Slater saw. Another pilot filmed it with a FLIR card, and it goes. But this one you see is really important to Bob's story. The gimbal crash. It's been recently analyzed. It's FLIR. Not only does it is definitive that it's not a conventional anything by its movement, but there's a pocket of cold air around the propulsion source. So this object, by the way, sat stationary for days, if not weeks. It sat stationary.
Well, they found it 11 hours later, and they were saying there's no way this thing using that kind of energy to go that fast to recover
The amount of time. And by the way, you're seeing a very small part of what happened back there. This object was not alone. And so hopefully that information comes out, and we can, I wish we had video of it. I'm sure we all want to see it. But that's called the gimbal. That was East Coast. Right? 2015. West Coast, 2004, is the Tic Tac. The disturbance on the water, Commander Slater believes there was something under that water. It was causing that disturbance when the Tic Tac was coming around and doing it. With inside the people that are studying this, they're thinking maybe the Tic Tac system is causing the disturbance, but the UFO, unidentified submerged object, that he visually saw, the whole interesting thing about that is, I would love Bob to describe it, is why it doesn't matter if we craft it in space, air, or water. Why doesn't it matter? I love when he talks about this thing.
Well, first of all, Commander Slater was F-18 after me. That was sent out to find out what this stuff is. And it wasn't just I got a chance to talk to him recently, and it wasn't just a radar. Commander Saber had eyes on it for over 5 minutes watching all 4 other pilots. So it wasn't a radar blip around. Just kind of watching this thing. But one of the things I got in the gimbal video, the way the craft that we were flying flies is it doesn't fly like a conventional aircraft does, and it doesn't fly like a flying saucer would in the 1950s movie. It flies belly first. I mean, it may set down conventionally, but it always rotates, does a roll maneuver, puts its belly towards the target, and then moves
So
away
it
at
would
high
be like
speed.
a car flying with the wheels forward.
Right, right. I mean, it may lift up, land on the wheels, but at some point when it wants to leave, it flips up, points the wheels where it wants to go, and takes off. And the gimbal video, you can see the craft do the roll maneuver. And it's really interesting because it's exactly like the craft that I'm working with.
So much like you have different shapes aircraft and fighter jets and cars, they probably have different shapes of these objects that operate under similar principles.
Right, but they all have the same power source.
And we're also dealing with, if you think about the laws of technological progression, you think of Moore's law, and you think of how things accelerate, you've got to think that this civilization is who knows how many years more advanced than we are. It's not even years. You're thinking about in terms of conventional terms, right? The way you look at the world, they might be just superior in terms of their intellect. They've got to be, maybe. We don't know. Right?
Yeah, the only reason I say that is because, look, everyone doesn't necessarily start at a steam engine and go to an internal combustion engine, and then, let's start a nuclear power and go up the ladder that we the binary, if the stuff is true about the origin, the binary star system, have heavier elements that we don't have, and this element, stable element 115 is a naturally occurring material. Maybe that's the first thing they started experimenting with. And if there's another steam engine, their first product was something that operated like this, and actually when they came to Earth to look around, whatever, they were amazed at the stuff we were doing. It's like burned stuff and squirted out the back to go forward. So, who says they follow any kind of normal progression?
My thought was, if you went back to the 1400s and then you went from 1400 to 1500, you have just gotten off of a different technological. If you go from 2000 to 3000, I assume there's going to be a rise of change.
Right. Well, the rate of change is magnificently higher than it used to be.
Right. So if you think about what they had in 1988, and you think about what they probably have in 2019, this logically seems like they would have done.
I would think so.
The only question is, like, are they living? Is that a living thing in terms of like a biological thing, or are they some sort of an artificially created creation like we are working on right now? I mean, we're in the middle of working on artificial reality, artificial beings, sentient beings, artificial intelligence, this silicon-based life forms, essentially, Boston Dynamics, is it Boston Dynamics that the company
You can make
robots? Yeah.
You can make machines out of flash, right? So a cyborg, a cybernetic organism, is just that, that's what a lot of people think those like gray things are, the categories.
Yeah.
Is like they're machines printed from flash. So what you're saying is like not
they could just be synthetic life. They don't even need to be machines.
But you see that no sex ratings really described by people that have had interactions with them, assuming people don't lie or crazy or whatever. Right. They have no sex ratings, and that they don't seem to have any muscle. They're just almost like a frame, and they're the normal size. I mean, if you look at Australopithecus or depictions of ancient hominids, and then you get a human being, one of the things you see is bigger heads and weaker bodies.
Well, you see a clear progression of evolution too, where something like that, I would lean toward synthetic organisms because it looks like it was made for a specific task. There's no reproductive organ, so I mean that almost kind of leaves out any kind of physical evolution.
Right. But that's also the bottleneck, right? Our bottleneck is our biological imperative. The need to breathe, emotions, fear, anxiety, all these different things that exist in order to force us into making sure we reproduce. I mean, that's essentially it. We're human reward systems that aren't necessary once they can figure out a way to make some sort of sentient relative to life. Some sort of thing that doesn't have these biological limitations that we have.
By the way, these clocks, all these different kinds of reports, it was confusing. I always thought of flying saucers what I heard Bob Lazar talk about, flying saucer, right? But if you look back in history, people have always reported the weirdest shapes. Like, none of them are alike. You know, there are the saucers, but you got cigar shapes, you got, you know, the top hat, you have orbs, rocks. Maybe they're serving different purposes. They're doing different things, like we use different tools. And I want to be clear, the reason I know that memo is real is because I spent a lot of time with Dr. Edwin Mitchell, sixth man to walk on the moon. Last guy to film me before he died, right? That's how I know I don't want any journalists thinking I got it from anywhere else. I know because of Dr. Mitchell. And he said the same thing. Maybe these things are performing different tasks, you know? And that's
Well,
why...
if you think about what an alien is in terms of the sort of iconic image of an alien, like Steven Spielberg, Quentin Tarantino, played comic aliens, they seem like what we would assume a human being would eventually become. Right? And these things are tiny, human beings are smaller than they've been before, they're weaker than they've been before, and there seems to be a trend in that direction. And this trend seems to be amplified by our technological progression, so a lack of need for muscle strength and a lack of need for violence, and moving in a society to try to get away from all the things that we think are boring about human beings and the terrible behaviors that we have. If we one day do give birth to some sort of an artificial being, like Martha McLuhan says, that we are the sex organs of the machine world. You know, that one day we...
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, machines, things. And that quote is always in one of my favorites. Because, okay, what are we doing when we're constantly technologically innovating? We're constantly looking for faster cars, better computers, bigger screens, faster, more resolution, more pixels, more this, more that, higher bandwidth, 5G, 10G. What are we doing? We're moving into this, if you just follow it, objectively stand back, don't touch yourself or your civilization, your culture to it, and look at what it is. We're moving 100% towards technological innovation. If you look at the species from afar, and if you want a part of it, you say, what do the species do? And they make things. They make things better every year. Beehives are the same fucking thing you see 10 years ago. You go by, you see a beehive, it's amazing, it's cool, but they're the same fucking thing. They figured out how to do it, they make a beehive. We don't do that. We make better things.
What would you do?
And at some point, I think that technology is going to fuse with us.
Yeah.
And we're going to become...
It's already happening.
Yeah.
Elon Musk talks about it on my podcast, that we are cyborgs. You just carry it in your pocket with your phone. So answers any question you want, you can talk to it. It gives you the answers instantaneously. It navigates you. It has all your phone numbers in it. It has all your contacts. You get a hold of people. People are listening to you through it. It's connecting us in ways even involuntary. Yeah. It's also getting on your wrist. How many people have eye watches or Apple watches?
So right, and that's only because you can't integrate them well. But if you know that point of time...
100%. Yeah, I did a joke about it last night, but I had a bit about it, so I did. About the integration between humans and technology.
What would you do if you were a hyper-intelligence, right? Would you do the work yourself, or would you create computer things called like humans to do it for you? Would you create things that are cybernetic organisms to come in with machines and do it for you? If you're a hyper-intelligence that has kind of changed, like you just said, you'd probably create workers, right?
Well, that's a vast conspiracy theory.
No, I'm not talking about conspiracy.
But it is a kind of a conspiracy. Well, I don't think it's necessarily that. I mean, you could look at it that way, but that is the way conspiracy theorists would look at it. The way I would look at it is that there's obviously a progression going on, a biological progression. There's some sort of integration of technology. There's some sort of imperative, this need for technological innovation. It's inescapable. Everyone has it. And I think it's attached to materialism in some sort of a strange way. Because so many people work so hard to get new things. And like now this new sort of life going to process, it makes people unhappy and depressing on the rise, but nobody seems to be able to stop it. Like, why is that? Well, maybe it's because we are the electronic caterpillars that give birth to the butterfly. Maybe that's what we're doing.
I
Maybe
could very well be.
what our job is to do is to make some sort of a cocoon. We don't even know we're doing it while we're doing it. You think of caterpillars, well, hey caterpillar, what are you doing? Man, I'm doing my thing, it's my job, I can make a cocoon, and it's like a
This could be a
butterfly.
natural part of evolution.
It could be.
That we're just supposed to do this
Exactly.
and make the jump to some sort of mechanized,
Yeah.
yeah,
Have you ever seen
non-biological.
an orangutan that is fishing with a spear?
No.
They figure out how to fish with spear. There's primatologists that look at that.
Without somebody showing them how to fish?
No, there's imitated human beings doing it. And now they do it, but they do it independently. They're not trained orangutans. They're wild orangutans. Those are wild
Oh,
orangutans.
yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Well, there's these primatologists. Have you seen primatologists? What's your term? Biologists. Biologists that believe that monkeys and chimps and some of the great apes are moving into the Stone Age. But they've currently entered the Stone Age. Like, they're not saying what they were 100,000 years ago or 500,000 years ago. But they're actively using tools, and they're experimenting with different ways to use those tools. And then they make these tools out of stone, they make these tools out of sticks, and they're using them. Well, this might just be what happened. This might just be what happened. I mean, why the fuck do we work so hard? I mean, I was driving to LA this morning. I had a doctor's appointment, so I was on the 405 at 8 in the morning. Jesus Christ, like, this is so crazy. When you're on the 405 in LA at 8 o'clock in the morning, you see literally a million cars. And it's just everywhere you go, people. And also, I'm in a Tesla, so I have it on autopilot. So I'm there sitting, I'm listening to a podcast. I barely have my hand on the wheel. I'm not taking shit. This car's driving me along. I'm not even doing anything. I'm just hanging out. So much less stress. Do it that way.
Right.
So it encourages you to innovate. It encourages you to embrace this new technology. Turn the navigation in front of me. Oh, I'll be there 5 minutes early. Excellent. And I'm listening to a podcast wirelessly with Bluetooth streaming from my phone. I pulled that podcast, which came out today out of the fucking sky, and I'm listening to it, and I'm all comfortable in my nice little car, just driving on my way to the doctor's office.
This is irresistible stuff.
Yeah, like just like when we Walkman, you know, back in the day.
It is irresistible.
It's frighteningly irresistible.
But is it frightening? I mean, if you were a monkey, or if you were an Australopithecus, would you go, man, I don't want to fucking be a person. I live in a house, it's bullshit. I like to swing around trees. I like to have running from jaguars. This is life. Life. Life is running from crocodiles. It's not living in the fucking suburban
No, there's
community.
probably some that are like that.
I don't think so. I think that when it comes, we're going to embrace it. We're going to embrace it the same way we embrace cell phones, the same way we embrace television. There's going to be a few holdouts. I don't even know an email address, man. There's a few and far between. There's good luck with that stuff, folks. Go move to the woods, Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah,
Go live in
I was
the
looking at those good to develop.
Ted Kaczynski was right. This is something that I think about sometimes when I get really high. That Ted Kaczynski was a part of the Harvard LSD studies. This has been proven. Ted Kaczynski, they took his fucking brain, and he was at Harvard. And then when he went over to Berkeley and became a professor, his goal was to make enough money so that he could implement this program and live in the woods and then write his manifesto and start killing people that were involved in propagating technology.
He was expunged from the Harvard logs, by the way. This is something my friend just told me about. So there's like this private library, and they used to print people's names whenever they were part of the university. He was one of a handful of people that were expunged from it. I want to jump back to one thing, Jeff. I want to be very careful about your conspiracy theory. What I was saying to you was, we terraform our Earth, right? We terraform, we change the environment, we do all this innovation. What is stopping us from thinking that that's not being done? Nothing is. Because what's stopping us from thinking that that's being done on a much bigger level, on a cosmic level?
Even like aliens coming down doing like a human.
You know, I'm telling you that there is something here. There's a fact. You know, there's something, there's facts. They're here. They're not ours. They're here. So the question is, what is that about? And I'm just looking at what we do, with what you're describing with technology.
Well, I think it's much more likely that the same way we observe chimps and we observe that they are now in the Stone Age, that they're observing us, and that they're recognizing there's a pattern, that there's a step that happens. I mean, Carl Sagan talks about the different levels of civilization. And, you know, that we don't get past certain levels, we're never going to
Right. The hypersensitive isn't going to stay type zero.
So we're in this roaring, polluting,
Yeah.
pillaging
We're awesome.
civilization. It's well, we're awesome in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
you know.
But in that way, we're not.
But yeah, we're children that have immense power that we didn't really. The other thing is you're using the immense power that other people have created, right? And even when you're driving a car and stomping on the gas, like, woo, you didn't invent the fucking engine. You didn't invent tires. There's all these things that were involved in the creation of this thing that is really outside of your grasp of understanding. But yet you have the ability to use it, like a person with a gun. I'm just gonna bang, bang, bang people. You didn't invent the gun. So like you, without the intellect to craft and engineer and manifest these creations, you just have access to them because you have paper or your Bitcoin or you have whatever the fuck you're using. You're using a credit card. Now you have almost no responsibility. You can just flippantly use these things, which is why we're very childlike in our actions. We haven't had to earn the responsibility. We haven't had to earn these things that we've been able to have, and you've only been able to have them because other people have innovated and spent ungodly amounts of time and effort and focus in the lab to create these things. And then they've all put them together, and then what's the reason to put them together? The profit. Well, what's the reason to profit? Well, why are you doing this? We can buy more things. Well, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're making better things. That's what we do. That's all we
That's all
do.
we do is make better
Yeah,
things.
why the fuck do we need oil? Why do we need oil? Why can't we just burn wood and stay home? Why can't we grow chickens and food in the backyard? Why can't we do it? Well, we fucking can. We certainly can. People do it. But we decide to make that almost impossible. Our preferred way of living is to stuff everyone into a very small area where no one grows anything other than weeds. And this is what LA is. LA is 20 million people with hard surfaces, as many hard surfaces as you can. Boy, it's got an acre backyard now. Like, holy shit, look at all that green. This is amazing. You know, that's the fucking earth coming through this weird sort of creation that we put on top of the earth. But the goal is that, like New York City, there's none of it, right? You've got Central Park and you just got human shit. You're stacked up, no one's growing anything. And then constant work. Everyone's up early. Go. Innovate, progress, make that money so you can buy more things. And every year, hey Apple, there's this fucking new phone. As if this phone isn't good enough. Like this phone's taking pictures and videos and people are calling you and you got applications that tell you which way the wind's blowing. It's not good enough.
A blink of an eye, it's all gone there. That like 10,000 years and the Hoover Dam goes or whatever. Mount Rushmore disintegrates. So it's amazing because we have created that and everything's trying to string us through that. We keep it maintenance down, but we're a blink, man. Something hits.
Well, we don't think that anymore. You think in terms of your own life, right? You think in terms of what you want and what you need right now. We are in many ways this combination of this weird primitive ape-like thing with the ability to calculate and manipulate our world and our environment and makes us wholly unique. On top of that, it's existential angst and fear. So what do you do with that? Well, water down the antidepressant. You just fucking people can shit to keep them moving. They're not worried about the future. They're trying to figure out what reality is. It's just, you're on a goddamn convertible spaceship spinning 1,000 miles an hour, hurling through infinity. There's no meaning to this thing. Just keep making shit. Keep making stuff. And then one day, they're going to be able to hit that switch, and this life will be born out of innovation and thinking and progress and technology. And more than likely, it's probably going to be what we're seeing that these things are that you're observing.
I'm not observing them, but yeah.
Are you implying that they're us?
I don't think they are us, but I think they are what happens when things keep going. It's not us, just like we're not monkeys, right? I'm not a chimp.
But that'd be cool. They're from here, is your idea.
No, that this is what happens all over the universe.
Yeah.
But this is what happens. Look, here's the thing. I went to see Brian Cox's, he has this amazing live show with Robin Ends where they have these LED screens, these huge screens, and high resolution depictions of the cosmos, and one of the most mind-blowing things was he has this large-scale image of the universe, and it shows all the individual galaxies of the universe, and it just keeps moving through all these galaxies and through dimensions, and it's fucking incredible. So what's stunning is the relative uniformity of it, even at, you're obviously looking at an incredibly small depiction of something that's immensely large, like a galaxy, hundreds of billions of stars. You're seeing it as this little dot, but this little dot is flying through space, surrounded by other little dots with very similarly spaced distances.
Yeah,
between
homogeneous
them.
also, yeah.
Like if you see uniformity in that form, in terms of like the distance between galaxies, so many galaxies, it's so similar. They might vary slightly, and that slightly might be hundreds of millions of light years, right? But there's so much uniformity. Why would we not assume that uniformity exists pretty much everywhere? And that all these things that you're seeing that are so similar, you do see binary star systems, you do see single star systems also, but there's also some speculation that Earth, and there's also a system at one time was a binary star system. Right? I mean, that's one of the speculations about that object that they find outside the Kuiper Belt, which is 10 times larger than Earth. I think it might have been at one point in time a star. But this uniformity that you see, why wouldn't you think that has its same implications biologically? That there's some sort of a biological uniformity, and that this happens given the right set of circumstances.
That's so true. Even kind of some of the stuff that you've read that you don't know is true. I mean, it's the stuff that's true about the propulsion stuff. I mean, anyway,
What do you know?
what you saw too. And,
What are you talking about? Go to beans, guys.
I got to poke the bear here.
Get some more ripping.
Well, I mean, the only thing I could verify was what I had my hands on. There was talk of weapon systems. There were different projects, Project Galileo, Project Starship was supposed to be weapon applications with the craft. Project Looking Glass had to do with time, effects of time in the craft. Now, I don't think we're not talking about making a time machine like in science fiction, but we're talking about, small distortions, intentional distortions of time, and how that can be used, as a, it's part of the weapon.
How are you informed in this?
Once again, with just the small group things that I read. But again, I don't really like to talk about those because I don't have any information on them, and it was just, small group things.
So you told Commander Fravor that what he saw might have been a time dilation and not
because gravity affects time. Space time, I'm sure you've heard of that. And, what Commander Fravor saw as he was in the F-18 approaching it, he said that he described it as a ping-pong ball and stuff and kicking it back and forth. It was moving that fast. Obviously, if there's anything inside there, it's going to be battered to hell. But, my point is that, one of two things. Either there's a gravitational envelope in there which negates any inertia effect, or you are seeing through a gravity displacement field. So, just like you're looking at a hot highway and you see, an optical distortion going through there. Well, the same thing happens in gravity, and the craft may not actually be moving like that. It may just look like it, because you can only see it through the field. So it may be making much more gentle moves. I'm not saying that's it, but it has to be one of the two.
When the thing shows up 60 miles away, they noticed it on radar 60 seconds after it left Commander Fravor, but it was at his catch point, which is the next point he was destined to go to, 60 miles away. And in 60 seconds on radar, the same object ends up there.
So it's showing the millisecond.
No, I think the radar just picked it up in 60 seconds.
Yeah, it could have been there instantly, but
We don't know.
the cycle time.
Nobody knows. That's what we're saying.
Oh, so it's cycles, like radar cycles? And
Yeah,
it
it
turns out
doesn't sleep, but I mean,
like
it's
it's
a primary way, so it's just, things around the place.
It's just 5-1 does it really true. It doesn't do the whole loop anymore.
But the point is, that the craft moved to his next location before he knew where his next location was going to be. And that's well documented. So that's a pretty shocking piece of information.
What's fascinating to me too is that you were discussing this, the way this reacted with, and that these things were not really connected.
No, nothing. It's not. There's no wiring at all.
That should be stuff out.
It's like your iPhone, you know.
Yeah.
It's no wiring, and then it's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the simple electromagnetic. Yeah, I know, again, but that's just simple electromagnetic induction.
So they need Tesla, the scientist, had this concept of...
Right, that's
what
what I'm talking about. Yeah.
He wanted to send wireless electricity to the sun. Western has to get the fuck out of here with that. Is there anybody who just pull electricity out of the
Can't need it.
Yeah, they couldn't
We had
do
this
it.
talk in the car right over and trying to kill him out, you know, we're talking about Tesla and how, he couldn't be metered and how it all went down, so it's funny to bring it up.
Who knows what would have happened in terms of innovation had he been allowed to go forward with things.
Well, we probably wouldn't have computers.
You think?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I mean, forget about microelectronics. Well, this is dumping huge amounts of electromagnetic energy in the air, and yeah, we'd be able to wirelessly turn on our lights, but there'd be no radio communication. The interference would be something that would be overwhelming. It would induce electric currents in anything with a small wire on it. The integrated circuits, transistors would be disintegrated before they would even, tested for operation. So it would destroy us up. Yeah, they would have stopped us dead. It'd be great. We could turn lighters on and heaters from all over the place with no wires, but it would stop modern electronics.
When you see the team depending on it, it would almost be like our dependence on fossil fuels. Although it's destructive, it's very difficult for us to get out the method.
It would have changed the course of how we developed, which is so interesting when you talk about it. A civilization of a solar system didn't even start with fossil fuels. They had 115 naturally on their planet, and we're like, cool, anti-gravity is pretty awesome.
Well, the fact that they
I think
didn't
it's
have...
important that that actually happened.
Yeah.
It might have been stopping its tracks for a reason.
And it's just, I think it's incredibly difficult for us to imagine technological progression under another timeline other than one that we've experienced.
Yeah, that's definitely.
If we imagine what this alien race message in life and to be able to see something, obviously you've seen it in different lifetimes, right? Like you see the life of certain beetles in comparison to the life of certain fish. Very, very different existence, very different life cycles. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we see all these different variables in terms of biological entities on Earth, but we don't see it in terms of technological innovation as we're the only one that's intelligent that can innovate. And we have intelligent creatures, but they're in the ocean. The only other thing that are like us is dolphins and orcas in the air. And they don't have the ability to manipulate their environment. And subsequently, because they don't have the ability to manipulate their environment, we put them in fish tanks. And we're like, get in the tank, do some shit.
Yeah.
The only thing he saw in the class, if you were considering Bob's story, the only thing that he saw in the class that he related to, that looked like a human could make, was this honeycomb hat. And I always loved that because you were like obsessed with this thing that you could recognize.
I only focus on that because it was the one thing that I understood how it worked. It was the access to the level below, and it was, if you take, you have a 6-pack of beer, and you take out the cardboard dividers, set it on the table, you can put a lot of pressure on the top. But if you push it from the side, it collapses flat. So it was something like that in a honeycomb shape that was essentially some sort of seat mount, and you could walk on that in the upper layer, but if you took the corner, stuck your finger in and push, it collapsed in an entryway. So I thought that was a really unique, I'd never seen that before, and it was the only thing in the class that made absolute sense to me. I was like, you can make that, and all that is a function.
Was there any discussion about the materials that we used to make this?
I'm sure there was, but that wasn't metallurgy division. It had nothing to do with that.
You never got
Not even the slightest case. I don't even know if it was metal or it was ceramic. I think there was a fine line between the two.
Now, one of the things that's happened to you that has allowed people to start you was there's obviously been some sort of an effort to erase the past.
Right.
Some sort of an effort to erase your education history, your employment history at Los Alamos. In fact, the only way your employment history was proven at Los Alamos is someone got a list, a directory of the employees from the past and wrote into it, and you were on that list. So prove that you work there, even though people are trying to not, they're trying to use that as a way to discredit you. You never did work at your time. Like you weren't really
Right.
fighting. What was that like experience? You know, of course, we're talking about the 1980s, the 1990s, when you could get away with something like that.
Yeah, obviously there were a lot less, a lot less records on computers at that time. It was still file cabinets and
Yeah.
folders. But yeah, that was frightening. That was one of the first
What
ones I
happened?
did. I think George Knapp was the first one that uncovered that. I mean, he saw my birth certificate disappear. He
Disappeared.
yeah,
Like there's no record of you being.
yeah, there was no record of that. There was no record.
His mom tells me about that. Like it was frightening for her. He's got a real family, you know. He's real close. It was frightening for her.
But the Los Alamos thing really surprised me, that they were so adamant that, no, this time, and George went back and forth,
I got the letters in the wall. Yeah.
months. I mean, it was ridiculous. But fortunately, somebody came up with a 1982 phone book directory. I mean, and also, originally I told you, when I worked there, I was on the front page of the paper, so they were still able to archive, bring that back from the archives, and, Bob was a physicist working here at Los Alamos, so there was at least something there. But somehow George came up with the phone directory.
And then Bob took George with cameras into Los Alamos.
Oh, yeah. So he flew out there, and I said, look, come on in. I'll show you where I work. We're going in, we'll meet people, and George went with me.
And then you had navigate to see that.
Oh, yeah, and, met people, and,
But it sounded like it was also the place where they had the machine that was able to read the size of your digit.
No, that was nothing. That was S4.
That was up there. And explain that.
So, now this is back in the 80s.
And this is back in the 80s where when you discussed this, people were like, this doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Okay. What was it?
It was a way, this is before fingerprint scanners and, anything high resolution scanner at that time. So what it was a device that had a little picture of a hand on a glass plate with pins in it, so you could jam your hand in there. And there was a bright light above it and a sensor underneath. And when you put your hand in there, the light would turn on, and it would measure the bones in your fingers because the light shone through your bones. And apparently, the length of the bones in your fingers is extremely unique and easy to measure. And they use that. When you put your hands on there, the light would turn on and your badge would pop out. Oh, there it is. That's it. And I tried to describe this to people, and they said, that is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard. And I said, hey, my badge came out of that thing. I put my hand on it, badge popped out, and that's how I could open the doors and get into our store. And,
and everybody discredited that. They said it was bullshit and science fiction. And Jeremy, you found this.
I found it through a good friend of mine named Tyler Rogan, and he had some good sources inside of Area 52 where they also used these for the stealth program right around that time. So now I've got all these people that work within who said only if you're in certain programs would you use this technology. It's kind of shit after you need people surveillance, you're doing like biometrics. So I was able to reveal it in my phone. I kept my mouth shut until I showed it to Bob. The movie was the first time he saw it was how you see it in the documentary. That's his genuine reaction, getting goosebumps. I was a great idea of what he's doing. Thank you, man, because guess what? I'm actually trying to see if he's telling the truth. That's how I started. That's how I started. So it was really cool to see that you get to see it. It's a cool reaction.
Has that been verified by other people?
Yeah, so to me it has, personally. I get emails every day and people are telling me where these are used and how they're used and send me photos. A lot of photos I've done in that,
How they were used. Like,
how they were used. But I don't, the most recent one was way more recent than I thought in another country, but yeah, that technology was used. So what's so funny is that this technology, even in the Area 52 where they use them for protocol, one of the guys who will go on camera and who will do an interview with me, he was a technician for one of these. And he hated them because they were getting bad. He broke down and he was a technician for him. But he won't tell me where. If he works at Area 52, so it's probably protocol. It's very separated, but yeah.
So there was that. There is your education record. That was also, what happened with that?
well, that disappeared also. You know, that I've never gone anywhere for education. I never attended any classes at Caltech. I never attended anything on MIT.
You did attend classes in those places.
I did attend classes in those places.
Do you know anybody that you went to school with? So,
Yes, I did.
and have they verified that they went to school with you?
So I did hear some names, but the reason I don't say these names publicly is because every single time I mention a name, somebody gets in
They
trouble.
don't want to
Of
be.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But what is that experience like? Seeing your birth certificate, seeing your employment?
Oh, it's frightening. It's absolutely
But it's
frightening.
also the fear that the debunkers use, the so-called earthquake skeptic. I don't like the term skeptic. And when I say this privately, because I really don't think it's privately. I think it's a sloppy, lazy way to look at things, to just be a skeptic. I want people to be objective. And I think there's a lot of things you should be skeptical of. I think you should look at things and look at things from a hard-line science perspective. You should be
Absolutely.
objective. But the idea of skeptics, the problem with that is you're always looking for things to be bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think that's dangerous, because I think some things aren't bullshit.
It's confirmation bias on the other end. You're
It is.
deciding to take a square thing and put it in a round hole no matter what.
And I find a lot of them to be lazy. A lot of them to be lazy thinkers. Because they're always putting it into that box instead of going, instead of just separating the ego. They're playing a game. And the game is calling bullshit. I want to call bullshit, and I'm going to line up all these reasons why it's bullshit, and I'm going to ignore anything that might be contrary to that definition.
Yeah, that's okay.
Every time I'm thinking I'm going to catch him in something, all along this process, I found Dr. Tranquil. He came forward and said, I was in security briefings with Bob Lazar, the physicist, Atlas, and Almas. He went on the record with me. Now, the other people I talked with, why won't they go on the record with me? Because he's still working there. So that's the difference, right? What can the public have,
Or
right?
even if they're not working, they want to live their
Okay.
life. Obviously, people have seen what's happened to you.
My big thing, after 30 years.
Yeah, really, if you look at all the information, concerning my account, that's verifiable, it can't possibly be a bullshit story anymore. It's really way past that point.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was my
my big point is, how could I possibly not?
So Mike Big Tim was the guy that did the security clearances to go to the base. One of the guys that was
the guy that you worked with.
he said he did.
Yeah.
And George not, George didn't believe him. George put him through his full polygraph test, right? He tried to see, man, this is a big risk. It sounds interesting, but let's see if he's telling the truth. One of the things was, Bob said there's a guy that Mike Big Tim, he did security clearances for the base, and that's a weird name. It's very specific. For 30 years, George found this weird department that he didn't even know it was Mike Big Tim. The guy didn't talk to me, ghosted him. So he goes to 30 years. Used Facebook and Google Image Maps. His children, I was able to find him after 30 years. And I talked to him 3 times on the phone. He lives on the East Coast. He almost went on camera with me. Confirmed that he did security clearances for the base in 1989. Confirmed he's a member, Bob Lazar. And what you don't know is there's a handwritten note that a friend of yours has from Mike.
What?
That I don't know. I'll give it to you later. But that is real. That is actual. So,
Handwritten note that says what?
This is more than
so,
that.
so when you
When they do security clearances, they go through all your things and
I'm gonna go to your
things.
friend's home, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is
and,
to Bob, and I had people come to me for a friend of mine was serving, and they were doing a security clearance for him, and even though I'm like the USA guy, they did, the FBI come and visit my house and make sure that they talk about my friend, and they left a little card, and when my wife told them to get away, she didn't know who they were. They left a little card, it's super cute now. Back then it was a handwritten note, and his friend has it for him that you haven't seen in
oh my God.
2 decades. So if you're listening,
How can you
friends,
tell?
So what is this
yeah.
card?
It's just a little handwritten note with Mike Bigton's signature.
A little card, like a postcard.
Like a piece of paper that he left on the door, so when Bob gets back, or whatever it says on it. So it's just another little funny thing. I found the guy who does the security clearances. He admitted to me he did it, and he admitted to me he was dodging George Knapp, because when George said his name on the news, he dropped his fork into his steak or into his potatoes or whatever, and he's looking at his wife. He's in trouble. His name's never supposed to be out there. Like, is this the security clearance guy? but you don't want national attention associated with anything Bob has to say. But anyway, this unique name Bob said for 30 years, and the guy goes to George now. George, to prove he existed, he actually talked to me, man. He talked to me 3 times. He almost went on camera with me. It's just crazy. What happens after 30 years? You just get more insight.
So that's one of the reasons why when you and Jeremy and George Matt had that conversation on the phone, I said, I think what we can do with this podcast is important. I really do. I think it's important for people to hear this from you in a very clear, just very concise way. And if you examine all the information that you said today, if you look at all the things that the factors have said, if you look at all of the new recent evidence that's coming out, all these really high-level people in the military and government that are discussing this, it gives you far more credibility than you would have had in the 1980s.
Well, yes, you can't ignore his story just because you don't like it anymore.
That's why I thought it was important to come out and discuss the word and let people know. I mean, like I said, I've been, I don't know if it's 1 year or different 10 years, as a human being for 10 years. But I've been following you for decades. I've been following the story for decades. I mean, I have dreams since
God, like a lot of the world has, it's crazy.
Well, anybody that has any sort of vested interest or just just a fascination with UFOs has followed your story because there's no one else. There's no one else that comes forward. There's some guys that I worked underground with the aliens and shot my hand off. There's a bunch of wacky dudes. They're underground, there's bases, they're shooting lasers to the earth, crust, and moving at light speed. There's a lot of those guys. They seem schizophrenic, they seem crazy, there might even be disinformation. There might be people that are designed to muddy the water, which for sure has happened.
People are coming forward right now. It's amazing. By doing this, what you're doing is providing an opportunity for Bob to tell a story. You know, believe it or not, he can tell a story. It's amazing because more people will come forward now that are involved with these projects. Looking for the youth, the news, they're coming forward. And so what you've done here is provide that opportunity if they need it. And it's amazing. I just want to say, Bob,
Don't come forward to me.
no, don't come forward to Bob. Why were you freaking nauseous at the beginning of this, like, so upset? Why did you have a migraine? Because that started off so hard, my God, I was sitting here like, you're
Well,
just,
why are you asking him why?
Because
anxiety. The guy's gone through 30 fucking years of being persecuted.
I just want to hear,
persecuted it.
I just want to hear him, I want to hear him say, I want them to
Why
hear
do I
him.
have to say that?
You got it. You get it.
I step out.
Settle down. Yeah, I get it. It's hard for you to get him here, you know, and I
It was hard
appreciate
for us.
Yeah. Well, you do
What really annoys me are the people that think, you know, you guys just came up with the story to make a bunch of money or get a bunch of, you know, attention. And
That's a good point. So
look,
please explain that.
first of all, I don't get any money out of this at all. And I didn't even let you guys buy plane tickets for me to come out here or anything. I mean, anytime, like in Jeremy, previewed, I guess, movie up in Michigan, I mean, it got in like a couple $1,000. I made sure that $2,000 went to science programs at the local high school. So I don't,
Dirty money. He doesn't want to touch it.
I don't take any money from this stuff. And as far as attention, I hate fucking attention. I don't like being on stage. I just want to kind of hide in the corner and do my own thing. So I got enough hugs when I was a kid. Okay, I don't need any attention. So now, if you think somehow we came up with this thing, then you got to tell me why we did it.
And you've done a great job of making sure you have your bases covered in that regard, and you haven't properly acted if necessary, and have donated whatever money that's in your way to science programs. I mean, it doesn't make any sense any other way. I mean, what I've gotten out of here is what I thought I was going to get out of here when I watched the documentary. What you're saying makes sense. It doesn't make sense that it's bullshit.
It happened exactly like I thought it would.
I believe it. In closing, is there anything else you got to say?
No, I can't think of anything other than really don't come and try to visit me.
So, I know that you have paid a huge personal cost to get this information out, and maybe you didn't understand what that cost would have been when you first initially came forward with the story. But over the past 30 years, it's been immense. It's been great, and I just want to thank you for that. And thank you for all these people that would not have gotten this information, would not have really had this story any other way.
Well, thanks, Jim.
Thank you. And thank you, Jeremy. And one more time, the documentary is available on Netflix right now.
Yeah, it's called Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers.
All right. That's it, folks. Good night.